Hi. Okay. Monday AM or late Sunday night, however you want to put it. Okay. So we have Peggy wearing her glasses with the exact same hairstyle and one of her jackets again. I'm sorry with that stupid picture behind her. I don't like her decor. I don't care for her taste. I'm going to get slammed. I'm taking that risk. I was sitting on my exercise bike for, let's see, how long did I go? I lost my phone. That doesn't matter. I think about 42 minutes. And I look for different videos that are at least a half hour long and blah, blah, blah. And I was just sitting down doing some chores or whatever. And I thought I would just see, what was up on the YouTube channel app or whatever you want, platform, which I really don't care for, but whatever. It's the only place for some reason I can post at the moment. And this is from today.
Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from the Healthy American.
Honey, I don't know you. You're not my friend, but I don't think you would be. I mean, I think I would be on friendly terms with you in a work situation. But you're not my friend. I don't know you. What I do know, I find to be, you put out one or two good videos in the last 3 months, and this just happened to pop up. I thought I'd click on it, and here we are. I just hang with me, not trying to be a bitch.
Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from the healthyamerican.org. From time to time, I like to bring on Colin Plume. He's the CEO of Noble Gold Investments. He's been with me.
Peg, you say from time to time I like to bring on. No, dear. Bringing him on intermittently, whatever that is required, because it is. Don't fucking scam me, girl. Is part of your agreement with this man to sponsor your show.
A long time providing value, not only as a sponsor.
How long?
But also helping us figure out what is going on with precious metals. I'm not an expert in precious metals, but Colin is. He literally wrote.
You know who's an expert in precious metals is Candace Owens' husband and her father-in-law, Lord Baron Michael Stayhill Farmer. You know who else knows a lot about mining and precious metals? Kashyap Patel's girlfriend, whose father bought a mine in Tennessee. Okay. I mean, do you want me to go on? You know who else knows a lot about mining? Susie Wiles, chief of staff to Trump. I'm going to end it there. The list goes on. Okay.
The book about silver, and I want to talk about silver because I think gold grabs all the headlines. So Colin, welcome back. And what is it we need to know about silver? What the heck is going on?
That's nice. This audio is very soft. Who would wait around in a chat to listen to this guy with his hand movements? Hey, here we go. Oh my God.
And I just felt better and better, and I felt quicker.
Yes.
And I think the most important thing is that I was able to, like, when I had struggles, I was able to recover from them quicker, right?
Oh, are they talking about quitting drinking and smoking? Okay, that's nice. I can guarantee you, wherever Charlie Kirk is, he might not be smoking, but he for sure is drinking. And he does a lot of drugs that affect his mental health based upon his hand movements and nonstop finger and hand movements. Nonstop.
So it's bad for all those
everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been good, and yeah, it's definitely helped.
And his mouth and teeth and his facial. I think he had Tourette's. It's indicative of that, and then being on medication to control it. And these weird pictures of Trump all over the place are just that, weird.
We've been so busy,
Well, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a great connection.
Look at
So
his
now you're like
fingers.
superpower Colin,
Yeah.
right? Superhuman.
Thank you.
And what
Are
a
you?
time, because, so just for everyone background, I didn't even do a good job introducing. Colin Plume here for noblegoldinvestments.com. They are our
my
partner
God.
for gold, silver, all that good stuff.
Precious metals, yeah.
Yeah, no, precious metals is the right way to say it. Noblegoldinvestments.com. We have you on frequently. We love talking about economic news, but you've had a surprisingly good year. It's a good time not to be drinking.
Yes.
What's going on with gold and silver?
Yeah, well, I think that
It's a good time
when President
not to
Trump
be drinking?
got elected, there people didn't know what
does
was
that
happening in the
mean?
markets. I think everyone just
Here,
paused.
Charlie, it's a
for
good
few
time for
months.
me to be drinking.
And then once he moved forward
Holy
with
shit, I
his
hate-
agenda, which the big agenda would be the tariff
Sure.
conversation. I think a lot of the money didn't know it was going to happen, and so we just had this real flight to safety, coupled with the fact that the last quarter. I don't know if you're.
And then, Bitcoin is a sponsor too, isn't it? So it's just, she has the same people sponsoring her. Here is the reason why I took time out of watching Seinfeld reruns. Oh, no, I don't want this. God, no, I don't want this. I don't like this guy. I know it's evident that I don't.
EIN right
Okay.
here, 83. Yeah.
But what's interesting while you're trying to get it is that there are 50 states.
Substack.com or subscribe. And then we'll dig into the doc.
So this is Jason Goodman. Now, I really like him. But he believes this is a real event, and I'm just wondering, on that Peggy Hall video, since she believes it was a staged event, does Colin believe it's real? And how can she have someone on her show that is not on the same page as she is? Do you guys find that to be fucking weird? Because I sure as shit do. Hang on a minute. I've got to have a sip. I think I'll put an ice cube in there. It's a little warm. I'm not kidding. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm going to bed soon. I'm okay. If I ever have anything to do outdoors, well, I mean, you know what? I don't pop a beer or drink wine or whatever until after midnight. So just so you know, I think that these people that are running around early in the afternoon and then get it in their cars, well, I think they're criminal, but that's just me. Okay, so let's, I don't know why I said that. Let's keep going.
Documents and stuff on that second part.
Okay, can I
Do whatever you want.
propose? Yeah, a slight variant. I just want to do one document, Doug, because
Sure.
I think it'll set the crowd into understanding why I'm so concerned. So if we go back to that summary on ProPublica.
So what Charles is talking about, this is Charles Ortel. He used to work for a brokerage house in New York called Dillon Reed, which I am very familiar with, as we did a lot of business with them, and they were pretty big. And I worked directly with corporate finance, but I was very low level. This is a highly intelligent man. and he knows finance. So what he is talking about is the financial documents, or are the financial documents of Toilet Paper USA. Now, I would love for him to see if he can find information on Toilet Paper UK, run by George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband. George Farmer is the heir to Lord Baron Michael Stayhill Farmer, worth about $500 billion. Of course, if you go to the normal search engines, you will not find that. You'll be directed somewhere else. It took me days to find this shit. All right, so let's stick with this.
Okay, it says the thing was tax exempt since July 2014.
Okay, he got onto a site that was able to find Turning Point USA Inc. was tax exempt since July 2014. One person he does not mention is Foster Fries, who gave the seed money to Kirk and previously had given seed money to Tucker Carlson to start his Daily Wire website, which he sold. And then he gave to a bunch of different campaigns, specifically Scott Walker, who Chucky Kirk initially supported in the 2015 campaign, which, by the way, takes quite a while and nudging of any search browser for that to come up, although it was easier to get that info a month ago. Everything is scrubbed. But I nudged both Grok and Grok. I've got all that shit. I think the conversation is still there. I had a really good one going with Brave AI, and when I went back to it and I saved it, I bookmarked it. When I went back to the conversation the next day, it said we are unable to, quote, fetch this information. Turns out Brave AI is run by some billionaire in Germany. This is just, very disturbing shit. So now, Turning Point USA, Indianapolis, Indiana, tax exempt since July 2014. But listen to this one.
People know that there are various resources. Unfortunately, North Carolina Secretary of State Charity Search is not, as of last night, not working. But the California Registry of Charitable Trusts is. And if you go into that, and I can read you the EIN if you don't have it handy, Jason. And you punch in 80 when you're ready.
No, I've got the
So this is what I was listening to while I was working out. Plus, I was praying too. So
EIN right
Okay.
here, 83. Yeah. I got
But what's interesting while you're trying to get it is that there are 50 states and there are a number of cities actually that also regulate charities. And through all of these websites, which many of them are quite good, North Carolina is good, New York is improving, California is excellent. You can quickly cross-check statements made by entities like ProPublica or the charity themselves. And as you know from the Clinton Foundation experience, if you say you were started on a certain date, you have to file reports from that date. It's on the right-hand lower side charity search tool. Yeah. So if you punch in without the hyphen 800835023, and you'll see there's something called, that's it. And you look at, there's legacy documents or founding documents, and you go down founding documents. You see it, Jason, you passed it. You passed it. founding documents are a bit higher. Right there, yeah, founding documents, hit that. And this is going to show you that the thing was not founded in 2004, tax exempt from 2014. It was founded. I'll read it out to you while you're trying to pull it up. It was incorporated on July 23rd, 2012. And
that matches the info I've got, but let's continue.
the tax exemption determination letter that we've talked about in the past was issued on July 3rd, 2014, retroactive to July 23rd, 2012. Now, this is important because Turning Point initially was founded as a C4, that is to say, an organization that was an action organization whose deductions were not tax deductible. They changed that approach in 13, and they said, no, we now want to be a 501c3. But they didn't really, and their tax exemption application was submitted in 2013, but they didn't really in that application explain properly how they shifted from a C4 to a C3. Nonetheless, the crooked IRS, or the Department of the Crooked IRS under Obama, granted retroactive exemption of this thing to July 2012, 23 July 2012. And now the key thing is that there are no reports filed for this thing that I see in 12, 13, and maybe there's one in 14 that explains all of this. Now, this is troubling because while I like the message of Charlie Kirk in the main,
I've never heard. I've been listening to Jason since 2020 or previous to that, but I specifically know during the 2020 election and when he was going from hospital to hospital in New York City, I watched every single video he posted. So I've been following him for 5 years. I have never heard him ever speak about Charlie Kirk. Ever. I've been watching Charles, many of his programs, on and off. Sometimes some of the topics are a bit off for me, but so I don't watch them. I've been on Twitter with Charles. He has liked some of my replies. He hasn't followed me, but I'm really a nothing account. So I'm familiar with these guys. I have never, ever seen one mention in that 5 years because they used to walk around New York City every Sunday together. I have never heard them mention Charlie Kirk one time. When you go back and people say, I like the message, I had that on a comment on my channel. And I thought, what was the message? What was it? He was on the road over 300 days a year. How did he even get that chick knocked up for the 2 pregnancies? Let's continue on because there is some shocking shit here. And I always said, I've been saying during some of my videos, many I have not posted because they're kind of sloppy. I have said, this is nothing more than a money laundering operation. This confirms my thinking.
and of Turning Point in the main, and the approach of going onto these campuses and challenging orthodoxy as revealed by the wokesters who run these places.
Okay. There are about 30 people at each one. I did a video yesterday. Again, it's kind of sloppy. I believe I have it loaded on my Urban Myth channel. And it was 1 hour, 22 minutes long. It is analyzing encounters he had in Madison, Wisconsin at the university, which I'm very familiar with because I was there at least 3 times a week for quite a long period of time, where I wipe the ass of my competition, who absolutely hated me every time. But I know it. Plus, I took my cats to the veterinary school there. And for serious illnesses. But I digress. I watched him at this huge campus organization. I counted like 15 people, and a lot of it seemed staged. It seemed too, I mean, I know the people that go to that campus. A lot of this shit seemed almost like there were a lot of Trump supporters there. But when I say a lot, if you've got a crowd of 20 and 6 are wearing MAGA hats or MAGA t-shirts, that means that you've got about 12 people there. He's not interesting. He's not charismatic. He is bombastic, nasty, annoying. So Charles says, I like his message, but what was his message? He wasn't a stay at home. He wasn't at home with his kids. We'll see right here.
What I really don't like to see, and I frankly feel that there should be a double standard in the area of regulating charities, that when you have Mom and Apple Pie, Patriot charities out there, law and order charities, they better damn follow the law. And as in the case of the American Conservative Union, the American Conservative Union Foundation, and the grifters, I believe, that operate around that entity and other right-leaning entities like the National Rifle Association and others, it does the cause of liberty and openness and democracy no good to have sloppy organizations that make public filings that appear to me to be false and materially misleading, even if the cause and the person in Charlie Kirk appear to be noble. If you're going to go into the land of charity,
don't get this.
you need to understand that that's not a way to have a mansion on a golf course as a young person. That is not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. 6 million or more out in Phoenix or whatever, Scottsdale. My brother lives out there. Well, he's got a place there. I don't know. I've never. Oh boy. All right, let's go.
You're supposed to be out there. You're not supposed to. The organization and all the people around it are not supposed to derive more than an insubstantial amount of private gain. What that means under the law, as I understand it, I'm not a lawyer. Private gain is not simply financial benefit. Private gain is any kind of advantage, edge that you or people around your organization might derive. And to turn to Matt Schlapp and the schlapping exercise, he's going around the world creating these the versions of the American Conservative Union in many different countries around the world, with his wife at his side and other grifters at his side, and a consulting operation, political consulting operation, that is generating more than $10 million a year. That's something that you shouldn't be doing. I don't mind. I mean, I don't like the tawdry area of elective politics, but I understand that campaigns are expensive and political consultants need to be paid. Maybe not as much as they get, but that realm of seeking political advantage, partisan political gain, should be completely separate and apart from a charity. And to the extent that Matt Schlapp does it, and maybe the people around Kirk do it, that then gives license to the Clintons and the Obamas and the Carvilles and the various people on the other side of the equation to go out there and say, look, everybody does this. If we don't do it, Kirk is going to do it, or Kirk's people are going to do it, or you name the person on the right who might be doing the same thing. We've got to take that out of politics, and so out of the realm of charities. And in the in the next for-profit or paid subscriber version, we're going to take you into some disturbing details of many different companies that seem to have been created around this Turning Point USA, a very suspicious endowment that has gone from nothing into, almost $100 million without explanation, and then has failed to file. Something called Turning Point Endowment has failed, I believe, to file a recent tax filing, which I think would be required, and other irregular.
Okay. Their expenses are or were in 2024 81 million. Their revenue was 85 million. Let's see. Let's keep going. I mean, I'm telling you, this was a money laundering operation. And this is from a couple of weeks ago, this video. I would love to become his subscriber, but if I didn't like it, I'd be afraid I wouldn't be able to get out of it. Wouldn't be able to pull back and cancel the subscription.
That we really see in the case of the Clinton Foundation, almost $100 million without explanation, and that has failed to file. Something called Turning Point Endowment has failed, I believe, to file a recent tax filing, which I think would be required, and other irregularities that we really see in the case of the Clinton Foundation, unfortunately, are showcased across the many different operations that are part of this Turning Point USA, in theory. Now, there are also unconfirmed rumors, which I think we need to try to confirm, of Charlie Kirk being concerned about the state of the financial.
Yeah, I don't believe that. If he was, he would not have taken such advantage. And if you look at Mrs. Erica, her hair, her makeup, I don't believe they were ever married. There is no evidence that they were. Okay, but we won't get into that. I believe that. So in 2023, the revenue was 1.98 million, and their expenses were 499,000. And it went up to like 80 some?
Called Turning Point Endowment has failed, I believe, to file a recent tax.
85 mil. So they went up that much in 1 year? Holy shit, man. Let's go.
The reporting of his entities. And, again, I haven't seen any proof of this yet. I've seen reports that allege it, that he was calling for a Doge-style exercise to understand what was really going on in this charity. Now, people who are familiar with our work here on the Clinton Foundation and others will know that charities actually, there's no need for a charity to be extra complex. There's frankly no need for an organization to be extra complex. I've found through personal experience that running one office, if you can run one office to handle your worldwide operations, you're far better off. That second office does not double the complexity of what you're trying to do. It more than doubles it. And here in the Turning Point, architecture, we see multiple offices, frankly, in suspicious locations, like in crappy strip malls, separate and apart from the main location of this thing. It just doesn't make much sense to me. Then we see, of course, the troubling pattern of the same accounting firm from an office in Arizona, not only filing tax returns, but also creating audits. And the 990s, the tax returns for the various Turning Point entities, I haven't seen a document yet that reconciles how these different entities share revenue, share expenses, funnel money back and forth to one another. And that's something that, when I don't see that, it makes me very, very nervous. Then you look at the level of the board at the top level. These are not.
It makes me question Peggy Hall all the more. If she's believing one thing and this dude from Noble Gold believes another. How does she reconcile that? Okay, how does she come to grips with that? Does she discuss that in that video? Because I don't want to give her any more perks than what she already has. And her whole appearance, I mean, she wears the same kind of jacket, just in different colors, the same glasses, the same hairstyle. It never even changes. It's a little unusual for a chick. But let's continue. I mean, let's go over this one more time. This is very important.
That charities actually, there's no need for a charity to be extra complex. There's frankly no need for an organization to be extra complex. I've found through personal experience that running one office, if you can run one office to handle your worldwide operations, you're far better off. That second office does not double the complexity of what you're.
But what kills me is how an $85 million revenue organization still had sponsors like Noble Gold, who just happens to be the same sponsor as Peggy Hall. What the fuck is going on? Be careful. She gives you
Trying to give it more than double.
She gives you just enough information to get your attention, and then turns tail the other way about the weather and about laws in Florida, which I could give a flying fuck about. This topic, I do care about, because this is almost like Branch Covadian ado.
And here in the Turning Point, architecture, we see multiple offices, frankly, in suspicious locations, like in crappy strip malls, separate and apart from the main location of this thing. It just doesn't make much sense to me. Then we see, of course, the troubling pattern of the same accounting firm from an office in Arizona, not only filing tax returns, but also creating audits. And the 990s, the tax returns for the various.
The audit is being done by the people themselves. Oh, I know. I'm a firm. I'm Colleen Inc. in Milwaukee. I'm going to do an audit of myself.
Turning Point entities I haven't seen a document yet that reconciles how these different entities share revenue, share expenses, funnel money back and forth to one another. And that's something that, when I don't see that, it makes me very, very nervous. Then you look at the level of the board at the top level. These are not financially astute people. There's one guy who's a certified financial planner, but there's another guy who's a jeweler and a pharmacist, and no disparities meant to pharmacists.
A pharmacist sits on his board of directors. Okay, what kind of a pharmacist? A person with a degree in pharmacological science who designs what? I mean, I'm telling you guys simply have to listen to me. I'm posting this on both the channels that I'm active on right now. The Girlsome channel is back up for this shit.
Or jewelers, but when you're trying to put together a complex charity, and also when you close to $100 million in revenue, and large amounts of expenses, and then companies swirling around.
I mean, cripes, it's like, I shouldn't say this. Honestly, I mean, I shouldn't talk about my own thing, but my expenses were extremely high. But that's the whole idea of it. You want to create as many expenses as possible. So then out of that 4 million, they paid all these people, which would give Kirk about what? $50,000 a year, and then Erica was going to maintain her lifestyle on that? If their revenue was only 81 million, how do they pay all these people, run all these strip malls, pay all these electric bills, pay the travel bills for Charlie to travel 360 days a year, according to Peggy Hall, who at this point I don't trust, but on that one I do, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to try to verify it, but what exactly was he doing? He was running the money laundering operation. It's my theory. I'm not saying it's real. It's my personal theory. We're going to take it back. I am so sorry.
Then you look at the level of the board at the top level. These are not financially astute people. There's one guy who's a certified financial planner, but there's another guy who's a jeweler and a pharmacist, and no disparities meant to pharmacists or jewelers, but when you're trying to put together a complex charity, and also when close to $100 million in revenue, and large amounts of expenses, and then companies swirling around connected to directors and vendors and things like that, you want to have financially astute people who are spending more than an hour a week. As Tom Sedeka, the Secretary and Treasurer, spending.
So this guy was head of an organization that generated 85 mil a year, and he was only putting in 51 hours a week. This Tom Sedeka, number 2, was putting in 10 hours a week. Well, it looks to me like he was putting in 1 hour a week. Holy shit.
An hour a week.
But he was only making less than $300K a year, and supporting Erica Kirk's plastic surgery and hair bill and nail bill, and 2 kids on that, plus that house out in Arizona. No fucking way in hell. I'm telling you, this was fraudulent from head to toe.
On numbers, an hour in a week, even somebody with my experience.
60 minutes equals an hour. That is less than 10 minutes a day.
Experience. And I'm not saying I have the most in the world, but an hour in a week is not enough to really be on top of a complex set of financial statements, particularly in this case where a big piece of money, the endowment, has not recently filed the reports that I think need to be filed. So this is not a happy moment for me to go into this, because I did admire Charlie.
Why did you admire him? I mean, I have never heard you talk about him. And as far as I'm concerned, he was nothing to admire. He was just this weird kind of semi-autistic, brain-damaged Tourette syndrome kid who wore a hairpiece. I think he was older than 31, too. Okay. I just don't think he had one iota of attractiveness in him at all. And I mean, to the point of what the fuck? I thought he was gross. I've never liked him, and now I have to talk about him, which pisses me off even more. But this just supports that I knew he was a piece of shit, and I knew his organization was just bullshit. And I'm like, no, I'm not wanting to watch it. I'm not a part of it. I come from a very strict religious background. I have my own personal set of principles that are pretty conservative, but I don't run around. The only reason why I talk about them at the moment is because of all these people kind of pretending to be fake trad Catholics. J.D. Vance, Candace Owens. Tried Catholics don't run around lying. Just saying. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't want to start going on and on, but I am. Okay.
Hour in a week is not enough to really be on top of a complex set of financial statements, particularly in this case where a big piece of money, the endowment, has not recently filed the reports that I think need to be filed. So this is not a happy moment for me to go into this, because I did admire Charlie Kirk and his fearless approach going onto these campuses. I myself did not have the fortitude to think that I wanted to go back, for example, to Yale or Harvard and try to take on
Yale or
many
Harvard.
wokesters who now run those places, running them into the ground. But here's a young guy who had that fortitude. Now he's dead, leaving behind 2 young children and a wife.
I disagree, but whatever.
It's a real tragedy.
No,
You've done a lot of work on the actual murder itself. I'm not as conversant with those details, but I am reasonably conversant with how charities should report. And I think you have a 5-alarm fire in the reporting of these financials, which I hope people in the crowd now will dig into. So that's my opening.
It's a strong opening, Charles, and just to sort of underpin a point that you raised there, I did receive this from Brian. Forgive me, Brian. Your last name there is Ferentz. Brian Ferentz. I've been on his show, and he actually agrees with my assessment of Data Republican that she's not what she appears to be. He sent this email, which is oddly from September 2nd. So everybody, has been talking about this, but Brian has it. This is from Charlie Kirk, and he's talking about the chief operating officer, effective immediately. Justin Strife, interesting name, is taking on a new elevated role. And this is where he's talking about this, in this role, I have empowered Justin, among other priorities, to engage in an organization-wide Doge effort. So he says it right here in black and white, and it's signed by Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
like I said, I know Brian, so
Or is that an auto pen? Because I'm sure it is. This just looks like UGH. UGH. The S? How is that a K? I don't believe any of this crap.
I have no reason to suspect that this is anything. I mean, I don't know him. I've been on his show. I've spoken with him. I think he's a diligent researcher. I have no reason to suspect that this is not an authentic memo. People can communicate with Brian and follow him on X, ask him anything they want about this. So that's pretty interesting, wouldn't you say?
Looks to me like he's at the wall, but that's okay.
Very interesting. Well, since you got that memo, if you may.
Megamind podcast. Well, just quick FYI, there is no such thing as MAGA. Okay, so let's see what else we have here, and we're going to cut after this, and then let me know what you think. He is, from what I know, at the wall.
If you don't mind, Jason.
Not that
I know I said one thing only, but let's just do one more thing. And
whatever you want to do, Charles.
Please,
I'm not trying to limit you at all.
Yeah. Thanks. Let's go into ProPublica and put in Turning Point Endowment and see what comes out.
Did it already. It's like a cooking show, Charles. Bing, bing. There, hey, chef of the past.
Pow. Whatever that guy. Yeah. All right. What's the most recent form that we have for this?
Yeah, that's the thing. It was 2022 seemed to be the most recent, which is
they call it ProPublica 23, but it's actually for the period that ends June 30th, 2023. There should be a form for June 30th, 2024, and there isn't. And this is suspicious. When we talk about the Clinton Foundation and its endowment, you're not allowed to set up an endowment as a charity that lets you do whatever the fuck you want to do. And that is just not the way it's supposed to work. You have a charter, a tax-exempt a statement of your tax exempt purposes in your articles of incorporation. It is modified and narrowed typically in your application for tax exemption on Form 1023. If it's substantially modified, you're supposed to amend your articles. But what the Clintons did is, they let Bill beginning, I'd say earlier, but officially beginning in August of 2001, they let Bill operate from offices in Chappaqua, homes in Chappaqua and Washington, D.C., and an office in Harlem, and just do whatever the hell he wants to do with money that came in to the Clinton Foundation, not designating himself an officer, a director, a key employee, as you're required to do, not really accounting for what he was doing. And then when he got tired of doing that, because he was always, running from here to there to get money, he said, I'll hire this guy out of the London School of Economics who worked for Hillary Clinton in various political capacities. I'll hire him to create an endowment. This endowment literally is set up to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And they raised $250 million for it, US, that we know about. You're not allowed to do that. And of course, our IRS under Obama said, now, wait a minute, this seems like a pretty good idea. Once Obama leaves the White House, we can't discipline that. If we discipline the Clintons, then Obama won't be able to do it. And Biden won't be able. Biden won't be able to do anything. But here, and also in the case of this Turning Point USA, the endowment is huge. As of the last, it's over 50 million US. And these days when we talk about $1 trillion deficits, and AOC wants 93 trillion to buy a new climate change bullshit operation. 50 million doesn't sound like a lot of money, but in assets, this thing has, I think, more than 50 million in assets. And with that, you really do need, in fact, if you're a trustee of something that has more really than, I would say, even 100,000 in assets, you need to have people around you who understand how to manage money. And it's not clear to me that this organization has those people. It's also not clear to me that they may have conflict of interest policies. But as we'll see, those are things that you can write up these fancy policies, but you don't necessarily follow them or have people around the organization who can discipline participants if they break the conflict of interest rules. So, with that memo, I'm inclined to believe and hope that Charlie Kirk was a force for good who trusted too much in the people who'd been around him to get things done properly, but then began to get concerned about what may have been going on. Now, this shows as of June 30th, 2023, it had 55 million in assets. Just this last Friday, there was a very suspicious meltdown in the market, coupled with people who went short, appeared to have known that the market may be going the wrong way, i.e. known about Trump's.
Okay, I have to pause for 1 second due to a personal issue here. Okay, resuming. I apologize.
Remember, but when we were talking about gold last year, which was already running,
Totally.
the retail U.S. retail market was late to the game.
Whoa, we were watching another video. What happened there? Fuck. All right.
So the European.
Fuck. Okay.